Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Eric Grafstrom, and he's co-founder of Exit Guide. Eric, welcome to the show.
Adam, so good to be here. Look forward to the conversation.
All right, so this is a popular topic. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners that listen to this program and preparing to exit a small business. That's a big one for us over here. So I'm excited to learn more about what you're doing, especially at Exit Guide, and really just some of the nuances of what it takes to exit a business successfully. But before we get into all that, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Eric, our mission is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs and business owners and really get their message and their story out there heard. So that's what we do. Eric, what mission matters to you?
Well, I'm a longtime entrepreneur, and a couple of years ago, I decided to make my mission to help small business owners prepare to successfully exit their small business.
I'm curious, what took you down that niche? Long-term entrepreneur. So, what made you think that, this is going to be something that I'm really passionate about and I want to do long-term? Tell us, how that took place.
Sure. So, I started my career in the early days at a company called AudioNet, which became Broadcast.com, founded by Mark Cuban. And that took me on a journey through the tech space. So, landed in Silicon Valley, worked with a bunch of venture-backed startups. I had helped a couple of them navigate some form of an exit. And contrary to what you see in blogs and tech sites, not all of them are pretty. Some of them actually, are winding down or selling the assets. Others, they need work before they can exit. And by and large, I always had access to super smart people that were talented and available, and whether it was in the community or just simply through, on staff or outside counsel. I heard a radio story one day, and it was talking about small business owners that are baby boomers trying to exit their business, and they were struggling. And I thought, this is such a strange thing. Why would that be? And so talk a little bit more about it. But what I learned is that for the most part, small businesses are really small. They're worth less than $3 million, but there's a lot of them. And the ones that are really small struggle to access the resources that I generally had access to: attorneys, M&A advisors, financial analysts. And I thought, well, this is kind of an injustice. And then when I looked into it, it's a huge market. So I decided to take what I had learned by helping people through, various M&A and exit experiences with, venture-backed startups, and take it into what is commonly referred to as Main Street businesses.
That's interesting because, one of my favorite types of entrepreneurs are the ones that they either see a problem or they see a challenge in the market and they find a way to address it. And they also find a way to use their experience and talent that they've done in the past or that where they've been of value and to apply it in other places. So I think that's awesome. Is there anything special or I always think about this as an entrepreneur, especially one that wants to work with other entrepreneurs, whether it's exiting a business or otherwise. Working with founders is tricky. I'm speaking for myself. It's tricky to work with me. What draws you to that space? What keeps you in the game with working with founders and business owners?
Well, at this stage in my life and my career, it is the devil, I know, as they say. But
I got you.
I would say that the change for me has been going from tech founders that I'm used to working with to becoming a tech founder. But, our customers are, the floral shop, the commercial cleaning business, the HVAC business owner. And these are the backbone of our economy. Small businesses account for close to 40% of GDP. And the people that we work with and that we try to help really are the ones that are, around us day in and day out. It's the trucks you see drive through your neighborhood. It's the local stores that you shop at. It's all sorts of things that are around us. And I just feel very strongly that these are good people who've created real value by providing a service and contributing to their community. And they're underserved. And so one of my co-founders, Jason, likes to refer to this as a double bottom line. But I think that there's both a lot of good that we can do with helping people, with a combination of technology and on-demand experts. But, there's also a massive market opportunity. So we're hoping to build a huge business to help millions and millions of people. So there's a drive to help people who really kind of created something of value.
What are some of the common mistakes small business owners make when it comes to like exiting their businesses? Because I mean, you have a unique vantage point, and I think one of the challenges is when many times when a small business is exiting a business, maybe it's their first time doing it. A lot of times, like selling your first home or
Yeah.
something like that, it's your first time. But so, what are some of those common mistakes that you see?
Well, and this gets down to how we've decided to approach the market. When I mention to people, casually, whether I'm out and about in the community, they say, so you help them find a buyer. And that's actually not what we do.
Hmm.
And it often leads to a look of puzzlement on their face. And they say, well, what do you do then?
Yeah.
Over 80% of small businesses never sell.
Hmm.
And we collect a lot of data when someone comes through because we ask them a bunch of questions to kind of help curate and cater the service that we have on our website to them and their needs. But what we find is only about 23% state their biggest concern is finding a buyer, and about 65% say that they just have no idea on where to start and what to do. And so some common mistakes are, often skipping this preparation process. They list their business on a website and maybe they'll guess at what the number should be. It's what they want for their business, not what that business is necessarily worth. So one is just simply trying to price the business. Two, it's lacking any form of preparation. A lot of deals where they fall apart tends to be in the due diligence process. And there's various ways. I mean, due diligence doesn't have to be this in-depth analysis with an entire team of lawyers and analysts that you might see in a large corporate transaction, but it is reviewing things. And so, we oftentimes encourage owners, don't talk to anybody yet until you started to gather the information. So it's your legal docs, your financial reports, and make sure everything's accurate, up to date. And then the third is just simply getting comfortable with some of the terminology and ways to approach this. And so, what we focus on is what we call an exit readiness score or a sale readiness score. And so we try to guide them through, much like you would if you were trying to apply for a home loan, your credit score. You may need to do a little bit of work with paying down some bills or, taking care of some things that may be incorrect, because you want that score to be as high as possible when you apply for that loan with your bank. Well, we're trying to do the same thing with small business owners, is to say, hey, look, don't guess at this process. This is going to be one of the biggest financial transactions you're ever going to see in your entire life. It makes sense for you to not only gather things from an administrative perspective, but also to educate yourself and, quite frankly, to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally, which is often an underlooked part of this. So, the three things that I'd say, one is learn how to price your business with some actual data. Two, make sure you've got information that's, going to be part of the due diligence process. And three, make sure you're somewhat educated as to whether you're selling the assets, you're selling the business, or how you're going to go about this before you even talk to a buyer.
Do you find that many times also, and I'm just curious about this, because people will listen to this type of show, especially with the people that you're talking about, like, that your HVAC owner, your flower shop or something else, maybe it started as a family business, maybe it started out of necessity, maybe it grew over time, and they never really designed the business for an exit. Like that wasn't their initial plan. It grew over time, it grew over years. So now that that's even a possibility, when you kind of look under the hood, because it wasn't designed for that, that wasn't the plan initially, there's probably some heavy lifting to do oftentimes. Am I off on that, or?
You're 100% right on that, Adam. One thing that we know, and we say this as part of our marketing or whether we're pitching people for, media or investment, is we say, look, one thing that we know, 100% of small business owners will eventually exit their business. Father Time is undefeated. So whether it's, desire to do something else, you have health issues, or simply need to retire for the business, someone comes in and makes an offer. There's a variety of factors, but it's 100% certain that you, as the owner of that business, will eventually exit. But, we often find that very smart people who've run good businesses.
And that exit part, elaborate on that for a moment. By exiting, it means retire. It means maybe, I don't mean to be morbid,
exactly.
But pass away. Like you're not taking the business with you. Like I want to, because some people will listen to what you just said and say, I'm never retiring. Well, God may have some other plans on that.
That's 100% right.
That's not how the world is designed. So think further than that, because, and the reason I'm kind of a stickler on this point, and I paused for a moment, it stopped your flow, is because like when I was a financial advisor, when I did other things like, passing down that business or that value in a succession plan or otherwise, which is one of my, previous careers before media. Like there's so much lost value many times when the business owner had this mentality while they were still with us or while they were still active of like, oh, well, I'm never retiring. And they never consider the value that's going to be lost by not putting some things in place, even if you don't choose to retire, right?
Well, whether you choose to retire or not, there's going to come a point where someone's going to have to go through this process of transitioning the business. And what I tell some owners who are maybe wanting to procrastinate in this process is to say, look, this is something that you will do, and if not, it's going to be a member of your family or your company that's going to have to take care of this. So I can say that with certainty just because, again, Father Time's undefeated. So we know that eventually you will exit. Now, exiting means different things to different people, and this is one of the things that we really try to stress, which is it may be finding a buyer and having an exit that's a financial windfall. We love to talk about that. It's a great story, but it's not the case all the time. We like to talk about businesses that transition to the second and third generation. Less than 6% of businesses actually make it to the third generation. We like to talk about, businesses that, gobbled up by private equity. So yes, all of those are possible, but another way of exiting may be selling the assets and taking cash out of the business once you pay down your liabilities and closing the doors. And so there's different things based on, an individual scenario and timing. But yes, to your good point, you can deny this. What we tell people is our job isn't necessarily to say you need to sell this way on this timeline. But what we want to do is we want to increase the odds of you actually completing the process and getting a deal done. Because if you're not planning for success, what are you planning for?
Yeah. And getting the deal done, and I'll just add one piece of that, and not as a fire sale out of necessity. Like, because that's what kills me is the lost value. It's the lost value. And because selling a business, I mean, it's not like we're talking about, stock market where you're just pushing a button, right? And let's just, whether we're arguing there is or is not efficiency, whatever, that's not the point here, but it's liquid. So when you're selling that business as a fire sale, it's super inefficient. And you don't want to be in terms of like the pricing. And if it's a fire sale, right? If you just have to get rid of it and it's at that point, and then also thinking about if a family member is doing it because you didn't have a succession plan or anything else in place or anything else, and let's say they don't even have a business background, and now they're at the will of whomever you is advising them, which may or may not be the right person, may just be their lawyer, maybe something else that doesn't necessarily have, let's just say that strength, right, to make sure that they're getting the right value. So just completing it is one thing. Of course, I agree with you, and just adding to that, completing it, but at a value that you feel is respectable, and not letting all that hard work that you've done in building your business over the course of sometimes decades to lose that value that doesn't go on to wherever you want that money to go to, right?
You're right. And Adam, just to add to your point, adding to my point, the one thing people can often relate to is preparing your house to sell it. You don't wake up on a Monday morning and decide to stick a sign in your front yard and hope to get the best offer on your house. You touch up the paint, you fix the leaks, you clean up the yard, you do things to bring it to market. And you also will go online and there's all sorts of information. You may talk to a real estate agent as a professional. You're doing a bunch of things to educate yourself on what's the state of the market, are houses moving, and if so, what are they moving for? And then you're trying to maybe bring in some objective opinion as to, hey, that thing that you've not noticed in your kitchen that you've just become used to because you looked at it for the past 5 or 10 years and don't see it anymore. We need to touch these things up. And so this gets down to why we take the approach that we do, which is the fire sale does happen when someone says, well, look, we're moving into the retirement home next week. We've got to have some liquidity and I've got to sell this business fast to lay down money. Well, you've now taken away the opportunity to prepare your business to make sure that a buyer looks at this and says, okay, I like the way the business is. I see the opportunity for growth. I see that there aren't problems that I'm going to have to come in and pay to go fix, and the ones that do need to be fixed, there's some type of structure in place for me to go do that. So, you wouldn't stick a sign in your house, the yard of your house, to sell it without doing those things. You shouldn't, just try to sell your business without preparing it first.
Amazing. Well, Eric, first off, great discussion with you today, and thank you for sharing more about Exit Guide and really and educating myself, the audience, everyone else about what it takes to prepare to exit a small business. That being said, I know that you have much more to offer and along this topic and also around the lines of services. How do people follow up if they want to learn more about Exit Guide?
Yeah, it's very straightforward. Just go to exitguide.com and you can start with reading some of our free resources about various aspects of selling a business to, terminology, to then going through the process of getting a free assessment to see if your business is sale ready. And then from there, we provide other tools and services to help you navigate the process. So our goal is to help give you both confidence and the information you need to be exit ready. So just go to exitguide.com.
Perfect. And for the audience, we'll put all that in the show notes. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't hit that subscribe button, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And for our long-term listeners, hey, if you haven't left us that review yet, definitely get that review in there. We definitely appreciate that on Apple Podcasts. Leave that review. Eric, been a pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Adam, thanks so much for the opportunity. Great to talk to you.